how's everyone doing? So, as I've just finished going live across on my Facebook pages, which you can head on over there to NU Journeys Counselling, A Debt-Free Life, Coach Marianne Hanson, and my personal Facebook page, Marianne Hanson. Usually, what I tend to do is I'll do across on my Facebook pages. Back in the day, you used to transfer the videos directly onto YouTube, but I've no idea how to do it now. They've changed things a little bit. And also because I want to give the opportunity to all the people that have subscribed to my channels on YouTube, I want to be able to sort of do similar videos that I've done on Facebook, but there could be just some differences really as well, because you've got different audiences. And also, just to be fair to you guys, it's also nice sometimes to just come on here, go live, or to do recorded videos on here. So if you're watching for the first time, my name is Marianne Hanson. I'm the owner and the counsellor at NU Journeys Counselling. I'm also a confidence and self-worth coach, and I have my confidence and self-worth coach page on here as well. I've got a separate channel for that. Something I want to talk about in this video is something that's I'm really passionate about. If you've seen a lot of my videos on here, I've talked about this topic before, domestic violence in different forms. I'm also going to be making more videos looking at male domestic violence in the new year, because I know that that's something a lot of people have mentioned that it doesn't get talked about enough. This could apply actually to male or female people who are in abusive relationships, and what I want to talk about is the psychological effects of being in an abusive relationship. Now, we all know that a lot of talks or a lot of discussions are held about abuse, but usually it's around physical abuse, verbal abuse. Even lately there's been lots of talk about emotional abuse, this idea of gaslighting, where you convince the person that they've said or done something when they haven't, and it gets them to believe that what you're saying is true. Now, that is also another form of psychological abuse as well as emotional abuse. But before I became a counsellor and a coach, many years ago, I used to say to myself, why do women stay in abusive relationships? You know, what stops them from getting up and leaving? How could they remain in that relationship? Why would they? And this was coming from a place of me personally. I couldn't understand it because I was feeling that I'm someone that's never been in any form of like physical altercation. You know, maybe at school when I was younger, it was literally pulling hair, scratches, that sort of thing. I've never been hit, punched. I've never been like injured by another person. So I suppose I couldn't understand that, because I just thought to myself after the first time, why would someone tolerate it? Not meaning that they're weak or anything like that, but just would it be too painful, and would there be that fear of, you know, expecting it again? It was only when a few close friends of mine were in an abusive relationship that I started to kind of question this whole idea that, you know, it's not about the physical. There's a lot of psychological things that happen. There's also a lot of things around self-worth that come into it. There's so many different reasons that people remain. So also then I became a counsellor, and I worked, volunteered as a counsellor for Women's Aid, which is a charity that works with women who experience domestic violence. And the key thing I recognised from that work that I did for the 3 years is that there are so many different types of women from different backgrounds that have been in abusive relationships, and one of the key factors that ran through and the key pattern is that they were strong women, successful women, beautiful women, but there were certain tactics and strategies that they all would kind of say that the men would use in order to keep them down and to crush them and to make them feel like worthless. So what I'm going to talk about in this video is some of the strategies that are used by abusers sometimes, and then how that then impacts on the victim in terms of reasons why they stay, and why it then becomes more about the psychological than the physical. So a lot of people who are in relationships, they start off by saying that the person that they're dating or in the relationship with is charming. They get along with people, you know, in public. They're these, you know, wonderful people. And even in the relationship, so this is one of the strategies, The person will be good company, they're possibly affectionate, romantic, even the sex can be great, in these relationships, but then they can combine that with vicious beatings, verbal abuse and control. So what that leaves the person feeling is confusion. What is the real person here? Is it the kind, loving guy that bought me flowers? Is it the person that when we're making love we feel so connected? Or is it this other person when he's beating me up and doesn't even see me? And that means that is a strategy that abusers use. That is not a coincidence. It's basically their idea of saying that they're going to present themselves in particular ways so that the person can fall in love with the good sides and then ignore the negatives. So another form of strategy or tactic that men will use is persuasion and manipulation. So that's where someone will persuade you to give them more chances. They'll make promises that they're not going to do it again. And then they will also manipulate you by saying it's your fault. And for many women, and some men as well, who find themselves in abusive relationships, they are convinced that it's something they've done, that I've done this wrong, and if only I do this differently, things will be different. And that keeps you in that psychological cycle where even though the beating or the verbal abuse feels so horrific at the time, and it feels like, how could I can't go through this anymore, I've had enough. Because the manipulator will use words and use certain language to convince you that it will never happen again, your belief is that that was the worst, but only good things are to come. Another form of tactic is isolating you from others, making sure you spend all of your time with the person. When you do go out, having limits on where you go, who you spend time with and how long you're there for. Presenting to everyone around, especially your family and your friends, as this wonderful guy. Now, the reason that is a strategy is because if the abuser can convince other people that they're wonderful, when you then, for some women, when they do disclose, this person has beat me up, or when, they're coming out with bruises and they're saying it was him, the abuser wants to put seeds of doubt in the minds of other people. And those people sometimes go along with that because they'll say, well, do you know what? I know my friend wouldn't lie and I know she's probably telling the truth, but I can't see him doing that and I don't believe it because he would never do that. I can't put two things together. And that's what the abuser wants. He wants that doubt in the minds of the people who love you, because then that is also creating a wedge between you, and it's also creating isolation. Because if your friends and family don't believe you, and the people closest to you, then you're not going to feel trust in them, and so it creates this massive rift between you. So all of these strategies that are used, and there's many more, but these are just some of them, they then create a mixture of emotions within the victim. So the victim will start to feel worthless sometimes because they're thinking, well, if my partner is doing this to me, it means that he doesn't love me or care about me, and that means I'm not valuable, and that means I'm worthless, because why did he not do that in his other relationships, or why is he doing this to me, and there must be something wrong with me or something I'm doing. So you start psychologically to think that you're the problem. The reason that that's a massive issue, and the reason that keeps you stuck, is because as long as you think you're the problem, it means you don't have to put any accountability on the abuser to change, because you're saying, if I do A, B and C differently, then things will be different, rather than if he just stops and he just doesn't do it, then things will be different. So there's a lot of hope. Victims also have a lot of hope that, he will change, because you've seen that glimmer of the person that, you fell in love with, and you wanting that to come back. So your brain is starting to then convince you that he is a decent guy. Yes, he beats me up, and yes, he's put me in hospital a few times, but that's not really him. That's because of his job. That's because of this. That's because of that. That's the stress he's under. So as long as you keep yourself in that position where your mind is telling you that it's not really him, there's just this rage comes over him, but that's not the true person, it means it will keep you in the relationship. because you feel that you've got hope. There's a possibility that things will be different. There's a possibility that things will change. Some of the other feelings and emotions you might have are shame, just feeling shame about the whole situation. How could we go from this powerful couple, which everyone looks at us and says, you know, we are great together, look at this couple, they're perfect, you know, hi Frankie, how can it go from that to this disaster area at the moment where I'm getting beatings all the time? The shame is because you feel that, how did I allow it to get to this? So you're still blaming yourself, but also, how did we get here? What happened? You know, how did I get it so wrong? Now, ultimately, anytime you are blaming yourself, you're feeding into the perpetrator's hands, because he's got you now questioning who you are and questioning what you're doing when it's nothing to do with you. I've said this when I was at Women's Aid, and I say it now. Any man that abuses a woman, and the same as any woman that abuses a man in domestic violence, they're making that choice. There's nothing you can do. You can't do the dishes a certain way to stop getting a beating. You can't dress a certain way. They're always going to find a reason to do it. Yes, Frankie said exactly. So therefore, instead of you trying to change what you're doing, change your behaviour, do things differently, stop him from being stressed, stop this from happening, the first step is accepting that you can't change the pattern of behaviour for that person, only they can. So you might also feel lack of confidence within yourself, you know, start to think, why should I bother dressing up, you know, hi Mary, why should I bother making an effort with other people, because what's the point, you know, what's the point in living? Now that's part of the last thing that I'm going to talk about, and it's about having this defeated attitude. So if you are in a domestic violence relationship, the biggest psychological impact and effect is feeling defeated and feeling as though you've just given, you might as well give up. This is what I'm resigned to now. He's not going to stop. I can't get out of this, because if I leave him, he's going to kill me or find me. No one else is going to want to be with me, because that's what he's convinced me. And so you then start convincing yourself that you might as well just stay in this relationship and put up with it. And that is the worst feeling, you know, that you can have as a person, to say that I'm not better than this. This is all I've got to look forward to. So what I want to say to people is that all of this sets a scene. Thanks, Frankie, for your comments. It's true, you need to have an exit plan. And that exit plan can be as long as you need it to be in terms of days and whatever. But as long as you've got a plan, then that's brilliant, yeah. So this repetitiveness can only go three ways. It's either that the person walks away and has an exit plan, as someone mentioned. You stay in the same cycle where you want things to change, but they never do, and you just continue for years and years in this abusive cycle. Or one of you gets hurt or killed, and that could either be the abuser or the abused person. You know, and this is really what you have to think about. It's not about the beating, because the physical signs will heal. You know, the physical can heal. Psychological can continue throughout your life, continue into the next relationship, can continue to make you feel down, can lead to depression, suicide, so many things. So if you are someone that is in an abusive relationship, try to think, how is this situation going to change? You know, what can I do? What am I in control of changing? Don't think about what he needs to do, because you can't control another person. You can't also wish for them to change or wish for things to be different. You have to make a decision that you want things to be different. So I hope you've all found this video useful. You can find all my information on this page or on my Facebook page, NU Journeys Counselling. I've also got my coaching channel, as I've mentioned, a confidence and self-worth coach. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, the other lady that joined me, and everyone else on this live. Take care. Have a great Christmas, and I'll see you all soon. Okay, bye. Thank you, Frankie. Yeah, thank you for joining me. Bye. Take care. Have a great Christmas. Bye.